Bentley crib on Sundays, and he used to have gang members over there. And it was these kids from New York called the Black Rose family. And these guys were 5%ers. And they were my peoples. My man Blaze, they were New York niggas. We had a whole New York crew, but we connected. And Lamont had his niggas from the hood. Lamont is from Milwaukee, but he was hanging with niggas from the hood. He had his hood niggas. And we used to go to Lamont Bentley crib on Sundays, and it was kind of like a church thing. Gang members, niggas, 5%ers, and we would build for hours, smoke weed, drinking, but niggas be talking about all types of real shit.
It's crazy, man, because I was just with Lamont, literally a week, maybe before he died. Ran into each other, I think, at the barber shop or something like that, and we're like, yo, what's good? We spending the day together. I ain't see you in a minute. So boom, I hop in with him. We ride all the way through LA, and we go to his house in the valley. We chopping it up. Everything's good. He's making these transitions because...
Have you ever stopped and wondered where Lamont Bentley would be today if he had lived? He was everywhere. His career was accelerating at full speed off the back of his breakout role on Moesha, and then, just like that, he was gone. Now, Brandy is bringing the story back into the spotlight, and she has never been fully convinced that what happened to him was the straightforward accident the media made it out to be. Lamont's character Hakeem was a 16-year-old kid navigating school and the streets with a close bond to Mo that felt real because of the chemistry the cast shared on screen. And say what you want about Brandy, but this woman has watched more death come out of that one show than most people experience in a lifetime. Bernie Mac, who played Uncle Bernie on Moesha, passed away suddenly in 2008 from complications related to pneumonia. Yvette Wilson, who was a familiar face throughout the series, lost her battle with cervical cancer in 2012. And Merlin Santana, who played Ohagi, was shot and killed in 2002. A senseless death that came after a teenager made a false accusation against him that ultimately led to his murder. And if you start factoring in the guest appearances, names like Whitney Houston, Sherman Hemsley, and Lou Myers, the number of people connected to that show who died under painful or unresolved circumstances climbs even higher. But perhaps the most haunting of all is Lamont Bentley, because he didn't die at a low point. He died right at the moment his life was turning around. He was only 31 years old. And that's what makes this story so difficult to sit with.
Man, I went to the funeral, and I don't like funerals. I do not like funerals. I went to the funeral, and it was fucked up, man. You know what I'm saying? To see your man laying in a casket, the whole Moesha cast, man, was there, man, it's fucked up.
Most people know Lamont Bentley best from his role as Hakeem Campbell on Moesha, the charming next-door neighbor who had a soft spot for Mo and never tried too hard to hide it. He was one of those characters that audiences just naturally gravitated toward, and for good reason. There was an authenticity to him that you couldn't fake. Lamont was originally from Milwaukee, and he carried that real-world edge with him onto the screen. He had genuine ties to street life, and that grittiness came through in his performances in a way that made him deeply relatable to the audience. But those who had been paying attention knew he had been putting in work long before Moesha ever came along. Sister to Sister magazine had already recognized him as one of the top 20 black hunks of his generation. He made history as the first actor to ever portray Tupac Shakur on screen, taking on the role in the film Too Lij. And he proved he had serious dramatic range when he played the intense and memorable character Crazy K in Tales from the Hood. But what actually landed Lamont the role of Hakeem was a brief but impactful appearance on the show South Central. Ralph Farquhar, who created South Central and went on to co-create Moesha, was immediately struck by Lamont's presence. When it came time to cast Hakeem, there wasn't much deliberation. Lamont was the guy. And once Moesha's ratings started climbing, his career followed right along with it. What makes his story even more interesting is how it all started. Lamont didn't move to Los Angeles to chase his own dream. He came along with his mother, who was a singer pursuing her own shot at the spotlight. She was the one expected to break through. But every time Lamont walked into a room alongside her, people couldn't help but notice him. The energy he carried was impossible to ignore. One person pulled him aside and told him he needed to get into acting. He listened, and before long, he had audiences across the country laughing with him and rooting for him every single week.
First of all, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so we were
You got somebody up there who might know you. One guy from Milwaukee.
All right.
Okay.
It was like 80, she's a singer, so like in 86, she said she wanted to move to California and, you know, broaden her career. So she came out here in California and she started hooking up with a couple of guys that do music and stuff. And I used to make this one guy laugh all the time. His name is Stan. I used to make him laugh all the time. So he said, I gotta get this kid started or something. So he called up Betty Bridges, Ty Bridges' mom.
Yeah.
And her and my mom had some talks and stuff, and I made her laugh too. And then she just signed me, managed me, and I started going to her classes, and then I started working from 87 on down.
Isn't that
And I never
something?
stopped.
The producers on Moesha didn't just appreciate his natural charisma, they loved his comedic timing just as much. So when Moesha eventually came to an end, the transition was seamless. Lamont moved right over to the Parkers and kept his momentum going. On top of that, he was gearing up to launch himself as a rapper, adding yet another dimension to an already growing career. But as his profile rose, Lamont never lost sight of where he came from. He launched the Lamont Bentley Foundation with the specific purpose of giving back to his hometown of Milwaukee. That kind of initiative was rare, especially at his age and career stage. Most celebrities either wait until much later in life to start something like that, or they simply lend their name to an existing organization. Lamont built something of his own because he genuinely wanted the people back home to feel his success alongside him. He donated to nonprofit organizations, returned to Milwaukee to mentor young aspiring actors, and made it a point to show them that where you come from doesn't determine where you're going. And whenever he was back in his city, Lamont was fully present, out with his friends, attending parties, and sometimes throwing his own events. He organized a celebrity basketball game specifically to raise money for his charity, and during the after-party, a confrontation between police and one of his friends escalated quickly. Lamont stepped in and refused to stand by while his friend was being handled. He told the officers that if they were going to do something to his friend, they'd have to take him too. They took him up on that. Both of them were arrested that night on disorderly conduct charges. Even back in Los Angeles, Lamont kept the same approach, moving through the hood, staying connected to the streets, and operating under the belief that the relationships and respect he had built would keep serious trouble from finding him. But that sense of security was shattered when Merman Santana was killed. Merlin and Lamont had moved through the same circles, lived similar lifestyles, and understood the same world. So when Merlin was shot and killed while sitting in the passenger seat of a car in South Central Los Angeles, all because a 15-year-old girl made a false accusation against him, it hit Lamont in a way that nothing else had. That moment changed him. After Merlin's death, Lamont pulled back from those neighborhoods entirely. The streets that had always felt familiar suddenly felt like a warning he could no longer afford to ignore.
Somebody got shot in LA from New York, it sends a chill in your spine because you automatically relate to that shit because you're from New York. After that day, because I used to go to the hood all the time. Yo, what's up? Yo, you know, we gotta get some soul food. Let's go to M&M's, do all that. When I first got to LA, I'm a hood. I'm from Southside Jamaica, Queens, nigga. I don't want to stay in fucking Beverly Hills. I want to go to the hood. She was good. Nick, after that day, you ain't never seen my black ass in the hood ever again.
With a new sense of direction, Lamont threw himself into his music. He formed a rap group called Uprise with a circle of close friends and began building that side of his career with the same energy he brought to acting. The acting work kept coming too. In 2001, he landed a role in The Wash alongside Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. He also secured a part in Spike Lee's drama Sucker Free City and appeared in a film called A Day in the Life.
By all accounts, Lamont Bentley was on the right path, focused, productive, and moving in the right direction on every front. Then 2005 arrived, and everything stopped. After leaving a screening of one of his own films, Lamont was driving home in his Mercedes-Benz when something went terribly wrong. His car ran through a stop sign, crashed through a chain-link fence, and rolled down an embankment. In the chaos that followed, Lamont was violently ejected from the vehicle directly into oncoming freeway traffic. He was struck by as many as 5 cars before anyone could even process what was happening. By the time emergency responders got him to the hospital, he was gone. He was only 31 years old. When a crash this violent and this sudden happens, the first question most people ask is whether the driver had been drinking or was under the influence of something. But the toxicology report was clear. There were no substances or alcohol in Lamont's system whatsoever. And multiple people who had been with him at the screening that evening confirmed that he was in perfectly good spirits, engaged, and completely himself when he left. So, if he wasn't impaired, what happened? That question has fueled years of speculation. Theories began circulating that someone from the streets, envious of how far Lamont had come, may have had a hand in what happened that night. Despite everything he did to give back to his community, not everyone celebrated his success. Some people close to him began suggesting that the brakes on his car may have been tampered with, and those who knew him best never fully accepted the accident explanation. Brandy has been among the most vocal. She has long believed that something happened behind the scenes that night that was never properly investigated. And nearly 20 years later, she's still raising that point publicly. His friends and family have pushed for the case to be reopened, arguing that the initial investigation simply didn't go far enough. Brandy's belief is rooted in what she knew about how Lamont moved through the world. He was someone who kept his circle wide open and never backed down from conflict when it involved protecting the people he cared about. That kind of loyalty in certain environments can make you a target. And given the way that night unfolded so suddenly and so fatally, some believe he may have been set up by someone he had unresolved history with. The case has been officially closed for years, filed away as a tragic accident with no definitive explanation for why a sober, healthy young man lost control of his vehicle in that manner. People don't typically drive that way unless something forces them to, or unless they fall asleep at the wheel. Neither explanation has ever fully satisfied those who loved him. And when you step back and look at the full picture, the number of people connected to Moesha who died under painful, sudden, or suspicious circumstances is genuinely difficult to dismiss. Brandy herself was involved in a separate car accident that resulted in another woman's death. The losses surrounding that show and the people in its orbit are staggering. But regardless of what you believe about how Lamont Bentley died, what remains undeniable is the impact he made in the short time he had. He was talented, generous, community-minded, and still rising when his life was cut short. Rest in peace, Lamont Bentley. He deserved more time. They all did. So what do you think really happened that night? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is long overdue.